Good evening, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Devotions. And tonight we're going to continue reading out of Matthew in the last week when Jesus was in Jerusalem. And at this point he's at the temple and he's teaching his disciples and the Pharisees and telling them stories to get them to understand about God. And at one point the Pharisees hear him and start questioning him. So that's where we're going to pick up the story today. So this is Matthew chapter 22, verses 34 through 40. And it says, "When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. And one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. 'Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?' And he said to him, 'You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets.'" So Jesus is telling us that out of all the laws that God gave them back in the New Testament, there were like 613 of them. These two are the two most important ones, and the one that Jesus wants us to always remember: to love God and love your neighbor. Not only love your neighbor, but love your neighbor as yourself. And that's a pretty big deal. And lately, we've been doing a lot of loving our neighbors, because as we stay at home and we keep ourselves quarantined at home, we're loving our neighbors by making sure we're not spreading any of the coronavirus germs. So it's a great way to be loving your neighbors right now. And we can love God even when we can't go to the church and have worship time or fellowship time. We can love God right at home just by reading the Bible or saying our prayers and talking to Him and just worshiping Him on our own. He enjoys that just as much as when we can all get together on Sunday morning at church. So let's say a prayer for this evening. Dear Father in heaven, thank you for today and thank you for this time to be together. Help each of us, even during this very weird and confusing time, to always remember your commandments that Jesus tells us are the most important. To love you, our God, and to love all of our neighbors as ourselves. Help us to remember that we can love you even when we can't come to your church. And we can love our neighbors even when we have to stay so far apart. In Jesus' name, amen. So I hope you have a great rest of the evening and you get a restful night of rest, a peaceful night of rest. And we'll see you tomorrow. Sleep tight.